Jordan Carlisle, hello. Long time no see, my friend.
Ben, yes, long time no see in person.
I know, still not in person, but I mean, here we are. James Black as well. How are you, James?
Yep, I am not too bad. How are you?
Is your head still spinning from Mr. Rinzer? I think it might actually be out before anybody hears that. But I mean, it was it was an experience.
That was something else. That was quite the conversation.
Well, we've got something a bit different today, a bit lighter for my head anyway. A Premiership Team of the Season sort of wee awards type thing on the Banks and Black channel. Jordan Carlisle, for those who don't know him, I'll be surprised if you don't. Journalist with us, GRV Media, do a podcast together as well from time to time. Boys v Blue Noses, so I brought the two Blue Noses with me to help me go through this list while we talk about Celtic's triumphs this year.
Lovely.
Ben's got the big wooden spoon out already, I see.
It wouldn't be a podcast with the three of us if the wooden spoon wasn't out. And
it wouldn't be, would it?
I've not even started with El Hamed yet.
Yeah, where's he slotting in, actually?
Striker.
Could be anywhere across the pitch.
Could be anywhere. But just get straight into it. Start with the goalkeeper. Who have you got?
I'll go first, though. I've got big Vaclav Hladky from St Mirren, and I have a very old firm dominated team, but I thought he deserved a shout. Between the sticks, I think he had 10 clean sheets in 30 games, which is very good record for a team down the bottom of the league. And he pulled off the best save I've ever seen live against Hamilton. I still can't believe he saved it now. It was big. No, Ogumpo. Volley, just swiveled, hit a volley from about 25 yards out the right side of the box, just flew. And I thought it hit the bar, I thought it just came clean off the bar, but he got a fingertip on it, superb. But I just think that he, of the keepers I saw as well, he's dead confident in what he's about. He fills the goal well, and he's a good shot stopper. So that's who I've got.
He's been linked to a lot of big clubs as well. I think Bundesliga is where he's meant to be away.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of weird because he's not young either. He's 29. Obviously, keepers can mature a bit later, but he didn't play for any clubs of real note before he came to Scotland, and obviously he's playing for St Mirren, a team down the bottom of the league normally. But he definitely looks like he can play at a higher level. Obviously, he's been linked with Rangers, maybe coming in as backup and that sort of stuff. But I think at this stage in his career, he's probably likely to want to be playing every week, especially after a really good season. So, very impressive.
I'm kind of torn between two, and it's funny because the chances are it's going to be the two that you've chosen here between Vaclav Hladky and Motherwell's Mr. Gillespie, who I'm sure is going to be your choice, Ben, yeah?
Absolutely.
I kind of figured as much. For me, between those two, and it's really hard to kind of pick between the two of them. I know the lazy, obvious choice is to go towards McGregor and Foster, but I don't think either of those two have particularly excelled. They've been good, they've been solid, they've been consistent, but it's everything you expect.
They've not won games, I don't think, as much as Gillespie and Hladky.
I completely agree with that. Maybe no won games, or they've stopped them from losing games more. I think probably the more important bit for Motherwell and St Mirren. If I'm pushed, I'm go with Gillespie.
Aye, well, mine's is Gillespie, and I have reasoning. There is no bias, right?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No bias.
What's that ball over your left shoulder, Ben?
It was a signed ball I won in a charity raffle.
At a neutral venue.
Colours, it seems to be
Bradford City.
Branded SPFL ones.
It looks like the writing's all scrubbed off and there's a load of signatures. I didn't realise. But no, Gillespie, I think he was, before the shutdown, was maybe 5 clean sheets away from Trevor Carson's clean sheet record at Mull. There's games where Mark Gillespie, I'd say, won Mull between probably 6 and 9 points, and I think it was about a similar margin that Mull actually managed to get third with. He's been to keep Trevor Carson out of the team as well, because Trevor Carson Mull probably had 2 of the top 5 goalkeepers in the league at the club at the one time. And for Mark Gillespie to keep Carson out, who's a Northern Ireland international.
Yes, indeed, and that is a high level of football to get that
with players like Stephen Craigan and the like. But no, Gillespie, the saves he makes as well. Like, I think there was one game, I think Mull actually get beat. It was away to Livingston, 1-0. They get beat, but he must have made easily 7 or 8 saves, kept the scoring down for what would have been 4 or 5. Very, very good season for him, and he will get a big move now. I think Newcastle were linked and things like that, but don't know, obviously with the pandemic, but he'll definitely get a Championship club. And when he came in, he was only backup. Probably a bit of good fortune he got in goals, because obviously Carson had his DBT injury and stuff.
Yeah.
But fair play to him. I mean, he took care of the gloves and he's not really dropped the ball since, quite literally. But
that's enough of your Motherwell nonsense now, Ben.
Yeah.
Mull have had a good season.
They have a very good season.
I'm not even talking out of any bias of that with Mull. Mull, there are some Mull players on this list that actually deserve to be there. For which, since probably the days of Stuart McCall now.
One of future Scotland captain.
Yeah, well, future captain, if you haven't seen it, with the former Mull captain, Peter Hartley, do check it out. But right, defence, I've just sort of put 4 guys in there that I think have played well. They're not actually really in their positions well. Only one of them.
No, Ben, no, you can't be doing that.
I've went very much
amateur level stuff here.
Yeah, you gotta have a workable formation.
I've got a workable formation, but one of my centre backs is playing out of position.
Ben's going to
we'll see then that just doesn't
work.
It's
just a defence packed with centre backs, isn't it?
I've got 3 centre backs. Well, my first defender's big Christopher Julian.
We'll get to him in a minute, because he's an obvious centre back. We'll start the right back, because that's the natural move. I mean, for me, it's James Tavernier. I know he's been much maligned by Rangers fans this season, but you look at, not even necessarily his consistency, but just how often you see him digging Rangers out of a hole. And I think a lot of the time it goes kind of undervalued, underappreciated. Alright, he's not been as much of a force going forward as he has in recent seasons, but I still think he's such a vital part to how Rangers play. And you look at kind of how much they missed him at the turn of the year. I'm still convinced that between losing Tavernier and Morelos for various reasons at the start of 2020, it cost Rangers a real shot at pushing for the title.
Yeah, I've also got Tavernier in. I think he's the one that a lot of Rangers fans love to hate, but no, I agree that there were certainly times this year, times last year, where he made really important mistakes. There's ones, there's in the Europa League, where at young boys he made a bit of a howler and then came back and made one at Hearts in the league in the space of a couple of weeks, and that was a bad stretch for him, and he was in a poor vein of form. But I don't think generally anyone over the course of a season can get close to him in that respect. I was really impressed by Frimpong for a little section for Celtic. I think he, in the League Cup final, he was probably their only player who actively played well. I thought he looked excellent, but obviously
they were crap that day, Celtic, I must admit. They were crap, but I mean, it doesn't matter, does it?
Oh, no, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. But they were poor, and he was very strong for a young player. Stood up and was counted in that situation. But Tavernier's there every week for Rangers, and as James says, he's maybe not produced as much in the final third. But I think he's still got 9 assists in the league, which to say that he's been noticeably off in terms of his delivery, and he's still got 9 assists across a shortened season. That's a very good effort.
Right, well, I've got Julian in it right back, 6'5".
In it right back.
Right. Doesn't really matter. Just needed to fit 4 good defenders who have had good seasons. And for me, I think at the start it was a bit shaky. And we'd obviously spoke about with our Celtic friends as he'll 7 million on him. That could prove costly. But over the season, I mean, he's had a few shaky games against London Dykes, but out with those games, he's been Celtic's best defender, I think, by a country mile. where I think Ayers maybe had a bit less of a season than obviously last season. He was very, very good. Whereas he's maybe not massively, but maybe a wee bit tailed off. But Julian's been the leader at the back for them, and it's been quite inconsistent at times because they've had injuries and stuff. I know we joke about him, but like El Hamed was to be like their number one right back and stuff, and he's been switching in and out. They've had troubles at left back, centre back. They've had Simunovic and stuff. Then Julian's been there pretty much the full time, and he's always a solid 7 out of 10. Decent debut season. He is in my team. So 2 centre backs.
So I would agree with you on Julian, to be fair. I think when you look across the league, again, consistently, he's been solid for Celtic. He's very quickly adapted to Scottish football. All right, he had his struggles with London Dykes. I think, generally speaking, he's coped really well with the kind of physical nature of Scottish football. And you see a lot of defenders that come here that it does take them about a season or two to kind of get used to just how rough and tumble it can get. I think you've seen it with like Nico Katic at Rangers at a point where kind of, all right, head and stuff's his bread and butter, but the actual physical challenges kind of, it showed that he wasn't quite prepared for it. And I think looking right across the 12 clubs, there's very, very few have come close to Julian on a consistent level.
I think Julian's obviously a bit like technically better and stuff. I mean, you don't get for 7 million and not be a good centre back, but with that comes pressure of having to deal with being. Is he the league's most expensive centre back just now? In terms of
at least.
That comes with a bit of expectation. That comes with a bit of expectation. He seems to have handled it well, and you can only imagine he's still. What age is he? 20, late 20s.
Mid-20s, I believe, yeah.
He will go on, and if he stays at Celtic for a few years, he'll be a decent player for them over the next wee while. Centre backs.
Yeah, well, I've gone in complete opposite to you, Ben, pigeonholing in defenders and the wrong positions. I've went centre back. I've just went for a partnership. So what I thought was the best partnership across the season, because I think Rangers and Celtic, obviously, in terms of goals conceded, are considerably better than everyone else. So I think it's hard to look past that in terms of defenders. So I've went Julian and Ayer. I think you're probably right that Ayer's been upstaged by Julian a little bit, and I was pretty sceptical of him early on. I think some of the comments he made suggest that he didn't really know what he was getting himself in for, and he struggled against Dykes, but he was excellent in September at Ibrox. Julian was really good in the air, and Ayers that sort of has a bit of versatility and is a very athletic defender as well. So I think although the two teams may well have actually conceded the same amount of goals, I think it would be, you couldn't put a Rangers centre-back partnership on the same level because they've chopped and changed so much across the season and have looked shaky at times. I think the odd time Celtic have been showing up, but in general they've been very solid. And my sort of thought is that if you put Rangers' full-backs alongside Celtic's 2 centre-backs, you'd have a very good back four.
Who was your other centre-back, Ben?
My 2 middle centre-backs don't play in Glasgow. That I've went for John Guthrie at Livingston and Declan Gallagher. John Guthrie, I think, probably, in terms of who would you rather over Guthrie and Gallagher on this season, I think Guthrie has went completely under the radar as one of the better centre-backs, probably one of the better players, actually, in Scotland this year. Livingston went on a run of about 6 or 7 games where they won at home, didn't concede a goal, and he was instrumental. He was the one who it was very no nonsense when obviously Livingston lost Halkett, they lost Gallagher, Kelly, Lithgow as well, even though he's part of that back three and he was still there. He was injured for most of this season, and there were question marks over whether they would just plummet, because that's where their good season in 2018-19 was built off of. But John Guthrie is probably, in terms of those seasons at Livingston, he had a better season than the 3 before them in the previous term. He's good in the air, Decent kick on him, and he's quite handsome as well. he's and Declan Gallagher talking to him has been, without him as well, Mull would have been a different team this year. There have been very many occasions at both ends of the park where he has bailed Mull out seriously. When 1v1s in defence and stuff, he'll make the good tackle that sort of gets Mull out of danger, the proper clearance, and there were like headers away to Hearts and stuff that were big goals in terms of Mull's season. So, and he got his Scotland cap as well. So it's probably a shame for him that he's actually approaching his 30s, because he would probably be on a bigger move if he was maybe mid-20s. But at Mull, I don't think they'll be caring too much, because it means he's probably, I know the captaincy's up in the air now, he's probably a good shout for Mull captains when the season rolls around.
Okay.
I'm going to agree with you on Guthrie. Just thinking it, see, just having thought about it when you're saying that, because I've been at a few Livy games this season, and just thinking that it really does. It really hasn't under the radar, and it has been really impressive. That's a really good shout. A really good shout.
Yeah, thank you. Keep praising me.
It's not going to happen often. And I think that. I mean, that would give us what? Gillespie, Tavernier, Julian, Guthrie.
I think so.
And then on to left back.
We've all got the same one. Borna.
Yeah, I think that's.
There's not a lot of candidates for left back, is the thing.
I don't think there's a lot of candidates either. But at the same time, I think he deserves a lot of credit, because there was a point, see at the end of last season, I think the last game of the league season, there wasn't anything riding on it, but Rangers went and lost at Kilmarnock, and he was woeful. He was at fault for both of the goals, and that was at the end of a season where he'd had muscle injuries, looked like he didn't fancy it for a while, real lack of confidence. And then I think basically he was sort of in and out of the team at the start of this season as well, and then got a start against Feyenoord in the Europa League and was brilliant, and then just didn't really look back after that. I think there was a stretch maybe in the lead up to Christmas where he was pretty tired and carrying a few knocks because there was no adequate backup for him. But I think he's a proper quality player. He's got a brilliant left foot. He's really good at the back. Has got Rangers out of trouble a good few times with his tracking back and last ditch tackles, and I think he's sort of on a different level to anyone else in the country in that position.
It's been, I think, both full-back positions have really suffered this season, but they've not had like a lot of standout players. There's only maybe been a handful across all 12 clubs where you can really go, this guy's had a really, really good season for the whole season. I think there's a lot of kind of guys who've done that for a month or 2 or 3 months.
I think as well, a lot of clubs don't play with fullbacks anymore. A lot of them play with 3 at the back, and they play with left mids and right mids as wing backs. So there isn't like Barisic. I mean, can you name any other left backs that are playing sort of week in, week out and they're fit? Jake Carroll at Mull, probably one. Stevie Lawless does a job when he's Jack McMillan as well at Livingston, probably is the other one. Aaron Hickey at Hearts. But
he can play on both sides as well, and was used on both sides.
I think there's just a lot of hype there just now. A lot of potential, but a lot of hype.
Bayern Munich have been linked to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see that
when you actually look a couple of seasons ago as well, that these big clubs, they know who are up 20, 30, 40 kids every summer, and then the off chance that 2 or 3 of them turn out good.
Well, certainly, like, he's playing regular football at Hearts, but I don't think if Bayern Munich snapped him up, it would be with a view to him going in the first team anytime soon. Have you seen their squad at the minute? It's like Hernandez, Alaba, Kimmich, although Kimmich is playing in midfield, Pavard, World Cup winner, a right back.
They've just got 80 million talent just sitting. Not Alphonso Davies, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Alphonso Davies. Yeah, it's just like the amount of the stuff they have in wide areas, and then like Kingsley Coman's apparently I think it's on track to win like 7th league title in a row or something. He's 23. It's
just an offensive record he's got.
Yeah, but I think that's slightly off the tangent a little bit.
You know who's Scott Brown's won 9 titles in a row?
we're sort of talking about like. Well, this is also
Kingsley
like
Coleman's
Serie
bounced
A.
about sort of all the top leagues and he's won them. He just is a serial winner.
Well, it's 3 different leagues, and it's also the first 7 seasons that he's actually had as a player as well, which makes it looser. You know, he's 16 or 17 when that run started, so
Not bad if you can get it right.
Right, midfield. So have you just picked like 8 random midfielders here, Ben, or like?
I've picked
how
3
have you
because
done that?
football teams are only comprised of 11 folk, so I've been limited to 3.
you've
Right,
just
so
got 3 in midfield and 3
we're
up
going with
front.
3 midfielders, right?
I've got 3. So
Cool.
who's
Okay.
I
starting?
can work with that. Right, I think Alan Campbell's going to be the first one.
Yeah, I have him too.
Yeah, we all agreed on that.
He's not in mine.
He's not.
Oh,
He's not in mine.
Wow.
You shocked? Although Alan Campbell is very, very unlucky not to be. It's only because of the players in front of him. I think I've probably just about edged him. In terms of players in his position, I've got Ryan Jack in front of him.
Jack, I would agree with.
Alan Campbell has had a really good season, probably the best of his career. He's been, I think Peter Hartley was explaining, is you really mull again in midfield, don't operate if Alan Campbell isn't there. But similarly, Rangers, I don't think operate very well at all when Ryan Jack isn't there. And I think Ryan Jack probably, again, would it be fair? You have probably watched him a bit more than me. Is it fair to say he's had his best season of his career?
well, I think I don't have him in, and I think that's because I think he was brilliant, and I think he probably was potentially the best player in Scotland for the first 2 months or so of the season, and he was very good up until Christmas. But I think he had a few issues and stuff, was in and out of the team with calf problems, I think it was. But I don't think he was really there after Christmas, as I think most of the Rangers team went missing. The only player that really turned up in midfield after Christmas was Scott Arfield, who ironically didn't do very much over the first half of the season. So for that reason, I don't have him in, just because I think he was brilliant, but he tailed away, and it's sort of, I think a lot of the players. I'm not saying he should be getting more criticism, but I think a lot of the players get a lot of criticism, maybe unduly, from sections of the Rangers support and are sort of heaped upon. But the whole idea that after Christmas, Rangers were losing games against weaker opposition because they weren't like up for the fight and there was no steel in midfield or through the spine of the team, and that's what he is in the team to provide a lot of the time, as well as his good passing, and I don't think that was there after Christmas. He's not in for me.
An odd situation. Who'd have thought? Ryan Jack isn't in yours and Alan Campbell isn't in mine.
Yes, well, Alan Campbell's in mine. More just because I think he has that, like, there's a game just before the lockdown or before things were stopped against Ross County that I did at Fair Park, and I think that was one of the best individual displays I saw from anyone all season. I think he scored twice, had an assist, but it was more the fact that he could have, had so much energy that he was sort of playing like he was sitting in front of the back four, but also at times was the most advanced midfielder. He was just, the amount of miles he must have covered during the game was brilliant, and I thought he just drove everything forward for Motherwell. He started the game pretty poorly, and he showed a bit of leadership there. I think obviously there's people like Ryan Jack, with the job I've seen a lot more of across the season than I did of Alan Campbell, but I was really impressed with that, and the fact that he was sort of a mainstay in the team across the season, and his age, I thought he deserved a shout.
Folk are only noticing Alan Campbell this season. He's been doing that for basically three and a bit seasons now. He's only like 21.
Yeah, I actually thought that, because I don't think I'd really seen any of him before this year, but he's got 100 odd league games.
This is the first campaign where people have really started to notice Alan Campbell, and I think last season they maybe would have if it wasn't for David Turnbull turning into sort of Lionel Messi regeneration.
Yeah, I know. I think
perhaps not.
I think that's pretty fair. Maybe not the Lionel Messi, but definitely kind of the way that Turnbull and Jake Hasty both kicked on it. It did take the gaze away a little bit for for Campbell's performances.
Who have you got, James?
My third one is Callum McGregor. I think Jack, Campbell, and McGregor it's just the ideal midfield three for me. You've got one who's really comfortable sitting, you've got one who does the donkey work, and you've got a third in McGregor who's just, I think, in the final third, he's just so effective. You just see the way his intelligence, the way he can cut teams open. I know he gets kind of a lot of hype for Celtic fans, but I do think he actually can be a bit underappreciated at times in Scotland in general. I think he'd kind of just be the perfect balance to what Campbell and Jack would have.
Who have you got then?
I've also got McGregor in the middle. I think he's sort of Mr. Consistency for Celtic. Obviously, you say that they've won 9 titles in a row, but and he's there on a weekly basis. I think he played over 60 games last season, played 50 odd this season, and I think it's rare that he puts in a poor performance. And I think he's got that sort of, he's the guy that even before this season, when the old firms have been quite split in terms of results, he's a guy who I think Celtic can always rely on to step up in the big games. I think Celtic were poor in the League Cup final, but I think some players like James Forrest are more sort of luxury options. I think that he's done very little in those sorts of big games this season, but I sort of think McGregor is more a reliable sort of character who can do some dirty work in midfield, but also post some good numbers in terms of, as James says, in the final third. So I think he was a shoot-in in the middle.
Well, I've got Jack, McGregor, and then I've got Ryan Christie. I don't think you said Ryan Christie, did you?
Well, I have 4 in the middle.
Right,
so I have 4 in midfield, and then so I've got Christie out in the. I'm gonna play him on the left probably, because obviously he's a bit versatile. I want goals in this team, so he's going to play on the left. And I think, again, I think he's got double figures, goals and assists, which is, it's hard to argue with that. And I think he can score from outside the box. Makes good runs, and that versatility is also important. I think one of the main differences between Celtic and Rangers was the fact that they spread the goals across the pitch, and he was the guy who can play in different positions but also posted good numbers on his own. There's a lot of other guys. McGregor will chip in, Forrest chipped in, but you have your main man in Edward, and then Christie, who will play every week and is also guaranteeing either that he sets up a goal or scores a goal in almost every game. So he's in there. And then I've got Stevie Lawless on the other side, because I think a guy in terms of pedigree with the other players, he's not there. Played with POTY Thistle for a while and wasn't actually producing much. I saw him a few times back, it was a good few years ago, and he sort of looked like a player maybe in the middle of his career that was maybe his level, playing at POTY. But I think he got 8 goals, 6 assists or something like that this year, which is a great return for within a team where he's going to have to, there's not going to be many chances on a plate for him across the game. So it's an old firm dominated team, but I thought he was a player who'd really excelled and pushed on at Livingston. So he's in on the right side.
He was one I'd thought about including, because again I've been really impressed with him. He puts a graft in. And I think that's been really, really important this season for him. Just you see that there's quite a few players in that team. Craig Sybil's the same. They just kind of work away and just do their thing and plod along. And it's never spectacular. It's never like anything that folk are raving about. But it's constant. And Wallace would be a decent shout as well. Yeah.
Well, because I think as well, he's worked hard before. He worked hard when he's at POTY Thistle. And that's a given with him, but the fact that he's now actually contributing, that's a good, 14 direct contributions to goals for a team who are not going to score bucketfuls, but who, as you're saying, at home are defending well. So a goal, 2 goals a game will normally get them 3 points. I think that was impressive returns.
He said to work hard, by the way, because I can remember when he was coming through at Mullow, 2009, 2010, and it was all right. It looked like he had something about him, but it just never happened for him. There's been a couple of players like that who have went on to do stuff at like sort of Championship and lower end of the Premiership level, like Bob McHugh, Craig Moore, players like that, and he seemed to just fall into that category of he'd do well for like a middle of the road Championship team, but that was probably about his level.
Yeah.
That's what we started seeing. Maybe he could probably be a middle of the road Premiership player, but this season's probably he probably deserves a shot now. I don't know. Again, he's a bit like Declan Gallagher, where
It's a bit later on.
I don't know if time's on his side now. Maybe he would need to go down maybe League One or something, or maybe it would just be a move up the Scottish football chain. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, he's had a really good season. I think he's also another one who's left at the end of his contract. So it's interesting that a lot of these players, sort of Livingston, Mullow, are now out of contract. And I mean, a lot of these players will be really good pickups for free. There's been a lot of players like that, actually.
Hamilton as well, people like Gogic and that sort of stuff are now
He's
floating
an
about.
honourable mention. He was very close because I think without Gogic, I think
There's a few players at Accies that were quite close for me. Look, Seifert is another one.
Yeah,
really impressed. Really impressed him this season. I thought there was a couple of games.
He's down in my list for the SPFL's best Love Island lookalike.
Nice. Aye, that's a fair shout. But no, there's a better. Yanis Hadji's you're nailed on one for that for me, mate.
Fair.
Especially if you've seen his Instagram story today, which is Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. He's just back in Glasgow with
I saw that one.
Beanie.
Yeah. Looking fresh.
Gogic is maybe staying in Scotland as well, I think.
I saw that. He said he wanted to. He's settled and all. Had the right offer.
I think Aaron McGowan's another one that was big for Accies, and he's also open to staying in Scotland. So it's going to be a real kick in the teeth for them, I think, if like A, lose some of their bigger players, and B, they're playing against them next season.
There's a couple of the young laddies that come through into the starting 11 as well that I thought were really impressed under Brian Rice at Accies.
I just hope I don't get the Brian Rice treatment like I did this season. My God, anytime I walked into his pressers, I was shaking.
Big chipper gave you it tight.
Singled out.
Oh, honestly, it was like, obviously I've told you about the ridiculous question one, and honestly, it was just, after that, it was like anytime I was in there, it was just like, it's you again, is it? So when I get sat down with him and I had to do a presser myself with him because nobody else had turned up, it was nice enough after it to go, after all of that, you were actually quite good today. There you go. Well done, Chipper.
It's building rapport and all that.
Anyway, forward line, how many forwards have we got? You've got 2, Jordan.
Yep.
Many you've got, James?
3.
Right. Jordan, you want to shout out your first 2?
Yeah, I went Edward, obviously. I think, he's simply got to be in there. Like, he's scored nearly 10 goals, more than anyone else in the league. Plenty of assists as well. The real focal point for Celtic, I think, although this is obviously the league team of the season, I think it showed how much they needed him in that League Cup final that I keep going back to. I think it was such a big game in the season, but he wasn't playing, came on, supposedly, only 70% fit, came on the second half and completely changed it in terms of a focal point for them. They looked toothless without him. And I think, yes, they spread the goals well across the team, but like if you're talking about if they only had a striker up front with Griffiths being unavailable for the first half of the season, if they didn't have a top quality striker there for the first half, I think they would have been a lot further behind going into the turn of the year. So I've got Edward and I've got Morelos as well, just about. I think he was brilliant in Europe, and that's where he really had, the spectacular season. Still some disciplinary issues, and wasn't again there very much after Christmas, but still had a pretty good goals ratio in comparison to other players. I think people like Christian Deutsch probably needs honourable mention because I think they scored the same amount of goals. He was tragic for the first couple of months. like truly tragic. But then, you know, it was then clear why they'd actually bought him, because he turned into a decent target man. People like Dykes did quite well. Eamon Brophy did well after Christmas, but I think Morelos is still the best player of that bunch. No one else in those groups scored more than him, other than Jermaine Defoe, who scored at like a better ratio, I think. But realistically, if Defoe had been leading the line in all those other games, I think Rangers would have been worse off. So Morelos and Edouard for me.
Morelos is just such an awkward one, isn't he? He's like, the thing is, you are all. I think Scottish football in the first half of the season, like he's public enemy not number one for a lot of teams, but folk were just about starting to go right. We can see past that because he's actually very decent.
Yeah,
I see him as very decent, but then after January, it was like he went back to the season before that, and it just didn't. It was walking about with that big scowl on his face, and it just didn't seem to happen for him. It's saying that he was still fairly decent in Europe.
If his name was Alfie Marshall and he come from Coatbridge rather than Serretti, would be building statues to him. We would. See if it was a young Scottish striker. I mean, see as much as people want to go on about, like Morelos is in mind, absolutely in mind. But people, as much as people want to go on about disciplinary stuff and everything else, you look at the work the guy puts in. He busts his arse for 90 minutes, and it actually reminds me a bit like Kenny Miller in his second spell at Rangers, when he was chasing Chris Pokes, and it was runs into corners, and it was dragging defenders out of lines. And I think Morelos does that fantastically, and I don't think he gets anywhere near half the credit deserved for it. I'd love to see him playing with like an Edouard beside him. I think we have a proper penalty box striker beside him that's maybe not quite as limited in Defoe and what other attributes he brings to the team. I think Defoe's very much that 6-yard box striker. Something like Defoe's sort of like Edouard's got a lot more in their game in terms of link-up play and kind of dragging defenders about. And I'd love to see those two together. As I said, Morelos, must give defenders nightmares.
Well, there's certainly in like the Europa League and stuff, he was like top quality. Yeah, his finishing was every time the ball fell to him, basically in the group stages, he scored. Everything looked effortless. He bullied defenders, but then when he's playing poorly, everything looks like it looks so difficult for him. You know, he thrashes at chances.
When he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's bad.
Yeah,
I would disagree with that to a point, in that when he's bad, he still very much puts himself about.
Oh, definitely. He doesn't not turn up.
And that's the thing. I would take a player having a bad game that still turns up and puts himself about, and a bad player that disappears. You know, you look at Josh Windass a couple of years ago. When Josh Windass had a bad game, he'd have been as well sat in the changing room. It would be invisible. And at least I think with Morelos, all right, sometimes he'll get carried away and he'll get a wee bit over exuberant and get himself sent off. But he still tries to get involved. He still tries to make things happen. And for me, that's a vital thing for a player, especially when you play in a side that typically only has one out-and-out striker playing.
Right, so I'm assuming me and you have got Edouard and Morelos as two. Morelos, obviously, for the reasons just mentioned. Edouard had 22 goals and 7 assists, and the season wasn't even done. Which is mental numbers. And Celtic will struggle. It's like, how long can Celtic keep replacing top strikers with a similar level? They replace.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that always stands out with me and Edouard is I went to a Celtic Mull game. It must have been. It was when Dembele was still at the team. It was after the League Cup final. I think Mull got absolutely thrashed anyway, right? But Edouard was starting up front that day instead of Dembele, I think. I was like, Mull might actually have a chance today. Dembele, Edouard, bit unproven, scored a hat-trick. And since that, I think, and maybe it's just because I've maybe paid attention a bit more, since sort of that, he's not had to be with Dembele. I think him playing up his own, it's been good for him. And
I think he's such an intelligent player.
aye, but especially this season, he's been unplayable at times. And what if he's playing well, then you're not going to win basically because he's scoring a brace, and they'll struggle to replace him. I mean, God love whoever's doing the recruitment and finding his replacement when he eventually.
I mean, I remember, I think it was last summer, there was much debate about whether they would go into the season with Edward leading the line or Griffiths leading the line. To me, it's night and day. It's the leagues apart in terms of the quality.
I think Griffiths is good. Griffiths is good domestically, and
he's good, but I mean, he's not at that level.
Edward will play for at least a top 6, definite, probably top 4 to be completely honest. Premiership club at least.
Did not spend a couple? How many? Did not spend 4? Was it 4 million on Klamala? I haven't seen much of him yet.
That's what. See if you think of the strikers that have been brought in whilst Edward's still there, or even just forwards in general. It's Fed. You've got Bio.
I can't even remember his name. Horrific.
But like, it's clear that they're obviously not trying to replace him, and these guys aren't going to. Nobody's going to be able to replace Edward like for like and deliver the same as he's been doing. But it's trying to find somebody that's going to still do a good enough job.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a struggle. Just comparing his record for this season, anyway. Who's your?
So am I going first with the third striker?
I think it might be the same.
Oh, aye.
Who's yours?
Cosgrove.
Cosgrove? All right, it's not the same then.
Oh, that's a powerful front three.
I'm just going straight up for goals here, mate. This is
yeah.
This is one where it's.
See, Cosgrove for me had a brilliant start to the season, but more so than Morelos, obviously, his form dropped off a cliff. Cosgrove's dropped off a mountain. He's
I think the same's true right across the Aberdeen side for that. You look at Lewis Ferguson, who in October was the golden goose for Scottish football, and by February it kind of lost his lustre a bit.
I still think he was all right, but I know what you mean. That full Aberdeen team just seemed there was a lot of, like, especially towards February, March time, there was a lot of discontent within sort of Aberdeen support over how, because the thing is with Aberdeen, they're not particularly doing bad. It's just that I think fans expect a bit more with the resources that are there and the squad, because it is a decent squad.
Mm-hmm.
I would still argue, I mean, it's all very well and good saying that now, but I think if you'd have looked at the start of the season, you'd have probably said Hart's team was the best outside of Celtic and Rangers, and look how it turned out. But
you sound like you and Murray.
well, I think a lot of people did, but like I got a great team, Aberdeen, I think, on paper if they all showed up, but it's a case of getting them to show up. And they went through that period as well, mind, at the start after the winter break, where they just didn't score. And
McGuinness coming under a lot of pressure. I think there's a limit to how much they can do, but the fact that they were going whatever number of weeks it was without a goal, and they're not like playing anything that would come towards adventurous football, then I think people, obviously their fans are getting a bit fed up. Like, there is a limit, but obviously Motherwell have, pipped them. Well, it wasn't even pipped, it was 6 points.
I think
it'll be like 0.45 points or some nonsense now. It's points per game, remember?
Not get the exact number to hand, but like I don't know what would have happened with third and fourth place, because I think even though Mull had a great season and rightly are getting credit for it, Mull were tanking a bit towards the split. Like, there were some, like, obviously the defeat to St Mirren, they had draw with Accies. It was a bit rocky. It was the first time in the season where they were on the ropes a bit. And the game before it shut down was Aberdeen on Friday night at Fir Park. There were still 2 games to go against Aberdeen. Would Mull have came out and would Mull have done better than Aberdeen throughout the rest of the season? Don't know. But off topic, but why is Sam Cosgrove in your team this season?
Just goals, mate. Just goals.
Just goals. I think he scored 11 and 25, which overall I don't think would be too bad.
He takes the penalties as well, which is obviously a advantage.
But I think it's because he basically scored them all before December. is the reason why I think it would. For me, the best striker or best forward outside of Edouard and Morelos this season has to be Lyndon Dykes. He's sort of been for Livy to do, like Marvin Bartley and stuff, doing all the engine work in the middle, for John Guthrie to do his defensive work. They defend for the front, and Dykes, there's nobody better to do it than Dykes. He's a bit like a better Curtis Main to me. Does a lot of pressing, does a lot of physical work, but he's got a good finishing touch as well, and he can play it as well. I think if that goes unnoticed, he's very good technically. And
yeah, I think he had I think when you look at he must have played nigh on every minute for Livingston, because when I had to look at his like ratios and stuff, and they aren't great in terms of he scored 9 goals, but it's every 240 minutes or something like that, and 5 assists. But they're not bad numbers, again, for a team who are not going to score bucket loads. And I think, yeah, he was impressive. And what's probably the most impressive was he wasn't bullying teams that are down the bottom of the league either. He gave Julian a really hard time. He did well against Rangers. He hit the post at Ibrox with a cracking half volley that showed a bit of that technical ability that you're talking about. Yeah, so I think a lot of players posted similar numbers, like Dykes and Brophy and Doidge and that sort of thing, and Cosgrove. But if I was going to pick between Cosgrove and Dykes, I'd probably go Dykes.
See, the thing is, Dykes is getting tipped for like moves away. I know he's been linked to Rangers and stuff, but he's only been at Livingston for a season. He's only played Premiership football for a season. For me, I think he'll obviously have big.
Well, 2 is that not a second season?
No, that's his first season. He was at Queen of the South the season before that. I think, was he? Am I right in saying?
No, I think that's 3 seasons, isn't it?
No, he signed on it. Do you know what happened? He signed on a pre-contract, did he not, halfway through the 2018-19 season?
I think you're right there. Let me check
and then he
Google machine.
He was loaned back to Queen of the South for the second half of that season. And then this season was his first season, at least with Livingston in the top flight. I don't remember him playing.
That's where he played last season, but I could be making that up.
But like, if that, correct me if I'm wrong, James, is it his first season in the Premiership?
Yeah, first season.
Aye, that's what I mean. I think he could still do with another season of playing at Livy, playing somewhere where he's comfortable. The fans really like him. He's obviously playing a system that suits him. And if he has another good season like that, then the offers will only go up. So I think good first season as well for him in the Premiership. But that's our team. So what's your team full out, Jordan?
Full team: Pladke, Tavernier, Julian, Ayer, Barisic, Lawless, McGregor, Campbell, Christie, Edouard, Morelos.
Who's yours, James?
Good, now you're asking.
We wrote it down.
No, wrote it down. That's Gillespie, Tavernier, Julian, Guthrie, Barisic, Callum McGregor, Jack, Alan Campbell, and then Edouard, Morelos, and Sam Cosgrove.
Right, well, mine is Gillespie, Julian, Guthrie, Gallagher, Barisic, Ryan Jack, Callum McGregor, Ryan Christie, Edouard, Morelos, and Dykes. There's a few honourable mentions this year, to be fair. Like Marvin, Chris Buck, Gogic. There's been a few players who have had. There's been a lot of good individual seasons in this season, at least. I think last season, maybe the season before that, were more like teams collectively were very good.
Maybe some couple of Hibs players over the second half of the season.
Martin Boyd,
Allen and
Doidge, Greg Docherty.
Well, very short space of time, but big impression, yeah.
Who else was there? I'm trying to think. St Johnstone, one player, and I'll speak about him in a wee bit. In fact, I'll leave that for speaking about him. There's one particular that I really like. Who else have we got? Have we missed anybody for any teams before we move?
Nobody else that's jumping out has been particularly obvious that we've missed out on.
Obika, maybe?
John Obika, yeah.
Obika towards the end.
Oli did a very good job, I think.
If Aki's could get him, if St Mirren could get him scoring consistently, they'd be firing up the table. Because I was really impressed when I seen him. Mm-hmm. But again, it was only kind of January, February that it really kind of got himself going.
An absolutely cracking song as well.
Yeah.
It is quality. Anyway, right, Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, Manager of the Year, and your best game. So, Player of the Year first, I think. it'll be simple. For me, it's Edward. There's no really any debate.
Yep, Edward.
Yep.
22 goals. I mean, he's head and shoulders technically, I think, of everybody else in this league now, and it's only a matter of time before he moves on to the next level. I think Celtic will do very well to keep him for the 10 in a row charge.
Well, I think over the first half of the season, it was like a legitimate question. Morelos Edwards, and the fact that Morelos was producing against very good teams in Europe was a big factor.
I'd have said Morelos.
Yeah, I think so. I think most people would have, but over the course of it, Edward in the end had a much better season, and is a massive part of that Celtic team, who were obviously, at the end of the day, although 11 for 11 at times, I think Rangers were better. Obviously over the course of the shortened season, Celtic were the best team, and he was their best player.
Young player of the year. I'm torn between two. Who are yours?
I sort of thought that the people, obviously, McCann has been talked about quite a lot, but I just honestly haven't seen enough of him to make a point on that. Ferguson, I think, is another one who has. James maybe said he petered out, which the Aberdeen team did, but I think he's been very impressive as that sort of that little bit of steel in the midfield, and that's why I think people are talking about eyeing him up for Rangers. But I've went for Campbell on that one. As a guy who played, as you said, this is maybe a breakthrough year in terms of people noticing him, but a guy who's a young player who played week in, week out for a team who did better than a lot of people expected, and is that box to box all action sort of player that is exciting and apparently a future Scotland camp.
Apparently. So who have you got, James?
Campbell for me.
I've got a toss up between Alan McCann and Campbell. Alan McCann is so good technically. I think St Johnstone obviously went through a bit of a revival, sort of between January and the shutdown. I think got top 6 on points per game. And the way it worked out, so technically they got a top 6 finish this season, and he was the instrumental part of that. He was probably the best player. Maybe Dre Wright as well, probably in the running for that. But I think he's in late teens, early 20s, very good technically, quite strong as well. He'll be another one that St Johnstone will make good, decent money off. And Alan Campbell, as we said, I think it's only a matter of time as well before he goes to bigger things. And I'm glad he's getting the recognition he's getting now, because everybody at Mull has been speaking about him for years. The big thing is always he's the first one in the gym in the morning, and he's the last one to leave it. And that's probably the best way to describe him, because he's a model for what that Mull Academy is. Hard work eventually gets you into the first team, and if you do well in the first team, you'll get him out of the way.
Yeah.
He embodies that for me. But manager of the year?
Oh no, well you haven't actually picked one. You just said it was a toss up.
Alan Campbell.
Campbell.
I think
That's a clean sweep for a player and young player then.
I think he just about edges it. I think he just about edges it. Manager of the year?
I've gone Gary Holt.
Oh, right.
Gary Holt.
Yeah, just because I think Livingston, in terms of the size of the club and budget and what maybe people thought beforehand. I know we sort of had a chat before the season started about who we thought would go down and that sort of stuff, and I think Livingston were maybe in that conversation, having lost key players. I
may have said Kilmarnock after losing.
I think you did say Kilmarnock. Yeah.
But I think they look as far away, by the way, as you think.
Did not.
Sort of November, December time. They were
struggling, but so people like Halkett, Hardy, Liam Kelly, who else? Gallagher's, maybe Dolly Menga, people who played regularly before, then left, and he was left with, and that's right through the spine of the team, centre back, midfield, up front, and in nets. So he had to completely sort of go again with a new team without sort of key leaders, and to have them finish in 5th. And I think obviously it was a shortened season, but it's not as if they got a wee boost. Obviously, St Johnstone got a little boost with their run towards the end of things, but I think they get a couple of points from the last 4 or 5 games, so they were well safe, well ahead of everything else. And I think, out of a situation that many people thought they'd be in, so I think he did a really good job in terms of turning it around.
If the season would have continued, they'd have been pushing Europe, by the way. They were not very far behind Mull or Aberdeen, and they were in better form than the two of them going in.
Yeah, and it's not just that they're beating other smaller teams as well. They're giving both the Old Firm clubs.
They were giving both Old Firms games, and they were giving other teams absolute doons, especially at home. You do not. That is, I'd say, outside the Parkhead and Ibrox. Now that's the place where you don't want to go on that.
I think you just see when you look at when Gary Holt came to Livingston, they were a mess. They just had the whole Kenny Miller happen. It came into that team. I mean, Miller lasted 8 weeks or something. That couldn't have been a happy place to go into. It certainly couldn't have been a very well organised place to go into. And I mean, the way he's turned it around has been nothing short of remarkable.
That seemed to just be like an experiment gone wrong.
Horribly wrong.
I think what helped them was that they just came back off such a successful season in the Championship, and the feel-good factor of we're back in the Premiership after being in League One 2 seasons previous probably allowed that it wasn't like you were going into a really unhappy place. It was maybe a bit rocked, but it was a bit like, right, well, if we get a decent manager in, we'll be all right. And so it's proved. I think as well, before I name mine, none of us have put Neil Lennon, and I have a reason for not putting Neil Lennon, because I think Neil Lennon should be winning the title.
Yeah.
Neil Lennon's got a £45 million wage budget a year at his disposal.
I think, for example, Gary Holt managing to get Livingston into 5th is a better achievement than Celtic running away with the title again.
Well, there's obviously a lot of pressure that comes on Lennon and stuff, or Gerrard up the top of the table. But obviously the fact is that he came in last season to a situation where he had a team well on course to win the league, which was the 8th in a row. He's inheriting a squad where a lot of the players only know winning the league and are very equipped to do it, not scared of doing it. I think he did do well, probably better than I thought they would. They had a really good points total and did very well after Christmas when Rangers crumbled. But yeah, I think there's, in terms of the expectations for Livingston, is maybe to just scrape staying up, but not
the question is, have they improved over the last 12 months?
I think they probably have improved.
I think so.
But to me, it's like expectation. It's like Celtic are expected to win the league and should be winning the league. Even if you consider resources to Rangers, I know Rangers are much closer to Celtic than the rest of the league, but I'm pretty sure Rangers are still a wee bit off Celtic in terms of finances. Maybe use.
That's a bit an understatement there, mate.
Yeah.
I was giving you some leeway, come on. But
yeah.
But no, I think for me, the manager of the year has to be Stephen Robinson. Has to be. See, the job, he took over a Mull team in an absolute mess. That's where I'm going to start, because see, when he came in, Mark McGee had literally just been chased out of a in mind. Mull get beat 5-1 off Dundee, and there were fans outside the main entrance of the main stand hounding the team out. Craig Sampson get chased into his car. It was coming into a really hostile environment, and obviously that was off the back of I think they'd finished top 6 the season before that, but also the season before that was the playoffs. It was just after Stuart McCall. It was sort of like 3-4 years of it was just a bit icky, and he came in, kept the club up. He went through his own. He obviously got to the 2 cup finals. Went through his own sticky spell, sort of 2018-19, where club were down the bottom. Fans weren't too sure if he was the man to lead them, and then obviously he got a few players back for injury. He got David Turnbull, Alan Campbell, Cadden, all playing really well, and then that form from the start of 2019 carried on into this season. More so the first season and the second half of the season, but Mull played some very, very good stuff this season. That's without their best player, David Turnbull. If Mull had David Turnbull, they'd have been flying past Aberdeen.
Thanks for that.
Could have went on, and he's a very nice guy. That's why he gets it. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Right. Well, best game of the SPFL season. Doesn't need to be particularly Premiership, just game you can remember that was very good.
But it can also be Cup, because that's what I've got.
Aye. I've got a Cup game.
Well, I've got that mental 4-4 replay.
Mull.
Yeah, Motherwell St Mirren.
Oh.
Now, it's kind of annoyed me a little bit, because I think it's the best match in terms of like drama, and the fact that it was already a replay, decent advanced stage of the Scottish Cup, so a reasonable amount like riding on it, and the fact that it wasn't even that it was to and fro, it was the fact that like St Mirren were 4-1 up at Motherwell, which is a very
absolutely batshit mental game to cover. My poor hands still haven't recovered.
I remember that you did.
I was in Fir Park till after midnight.
Yeah, well, it was completely crazy. The one problem is that obviously we're saying that it's the best game of the season. Some of the goals are tragic, but
that's why it's so good.
It's like it's sort of peak. It is like if you're trying to sell Scottish football though, it's that craziness that is in it that like you're not going to really see in many other places. Some of the goals are daft.
It's Alan Campbell's one where he's trying to cross us and it takes a man. The deflection just loops out Hiladke. It's like
that's to make it 4 each, isn't it?
Aye, I think so. I think that was 4 each.
Yeah, there's that one. And one of St Mirren goals just comes clean off a Motherwell defender.
It's Hartley. He kicks it and it just comes up Hartley and just rolls in.
Yeah, it's like some of the goals. Like there's not a huge amount of quality in the goals, but it's a sort of frantic back and forth game that
fans were able to get into that for a fiver.
Well, they certainly got their money's worth. So that's what I've went for. With the caveat that like some of it wasn't the best, but it was the best in terms of entertainment.
Right. I covered that game, right? I was at that, obviously, I was in that in press in 4 each, and I was like, right, that's probably the best game I'm going to cover this season. I went to Rugby Park the next.
That was the other one.
That was even there. That was even crazier. It was 3. I didn't even see the full game, but it was, for me, there was sort of, that embodies again what Scottish football is. It was absolutely dire for 75 minutes. It was 1-0 to Kelly. It looked like it was going to be a 1-0. I was semi-content with that because it meant I was going to get home at a reasonable hour.
Yeah.
And Andy Considine scores with the last kick of the ball in an extra time. I think there was, how many goals? 5 or 6 goals, I think, in extra time. And the last one, obviously, is Kelly equalised to send it to penalties at 3 each at 118 minutes, and Aberdeen got the other end with the last kick of the ball and get the winner.
It's OG, isn't it?
Maybe the joy of penalties.
Unbelievable. An unbelievable end to that game. And that's the most memorable for me.
For me, it was Hamilton versus Livingston in January. I've actually had to go back. I had to go back and double check the date of it. It was in January. And for much the same reason as Jordan's, is that it was a 4-2 win for Livy at Hamilton. But it was just batshit crazy at points. Some of the defending was comical. It was a really entertaining game if you weren't somebody who goes to watch football for like a good tactical game. It was just ridiculous. it was comical, and I think it had the added fact that Marcus Nash danced about like for half the game. And it always adds something to a Hamilton game. But that's for me, that was the one that really sort of. There was a couple of games at Hamilton this season that were like that. Actually, it was just a bit comic cuts.
No, well, that's a list. Scottish football's just a bit wild, isn't it? I wonder how can next season possibly have. The next season's got a terrible job on its hands because it's not going to be able to live up to the drama.
I mean, nothing's living up to how mental 2019.
Do you think we need a season where it's just all quite calm and everyone goes to plan, or is that wishful thing?
Never going to happen.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to be the plan when people are playing behind closed doors and then no one's saying it's virtual season tickets. Like there's bound to be major things that go wrong with that.
Oh, it's guaranteed. It's going to be chaos.
Aye, well, the thing is that a lot. I don't obviously know the ins and outs of the club streamings and stuff. I know a lot of these clubs do like video record their games and sometimes stream them for fans outside of the UK. It's usually the norm now. But how is that going to work at certain grounds? I'm thinking of like, I'm just trying to think of how that all works. And for example, at like Ross County, virtual season tickets streaming, just with the manpower that you need to sort of run operations like that.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work that needs to go into it, and it's just a case of whether have the clubs actually got the resources and the bodies to put behind it.
They'll have a way. I don't see it being that difficult simply because you're not going to have the usual strain on logistics that you would have at grounds. Like on a normal match day, I don't imagine you're going to have like much written press there. I doubt you'll have like live BBC radio coverage and stuff. So you're going to have all of that. All those lines are all going to be free, so they'll probably just use that.
You think so? The way I've seen it for like the Bundesliga and stuff, it looks like there's obviously less press there than there would have been, but it doesn't look like it's drastically affected.
I know La Liga are doing 10, so like
the
clubs will decide the 10 top priority journalists to get in. That's what they're doing. Could land us in trouble.
I would say, hopefully not. It'll be very, very interesting to see how all that plays out. And then, obviously, I think it'll be probably Premiership. You're looking at January next year before you get fans in the grounds again.
Yeah, hopefully.
Who do we think is going to be in our team of the seasons in that next season?
I don't think I'm prepared to predict that at this stage.
I think El Hamed's going to.
Yeah, and Bio up front.
By the happens, Celtic 10 in a row. You'll just be able to. You might as well just put if that happens, you might as well just put the full Celtic team in it with Neil Lennon as manager.
No, I'm not in a position to make any predictions at this stage, Ben.
Right. Well, that's all I've got. You want anything to add?
I'm all good for that.
No, that was.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter, Banks and Black. Subscribe to the Banks and Black YouTube channel, Podbean, iTunes. Till next time, take care.